Hiya, Barbie.
Hi, Ken.
You want to go do a podcast?
Sure.
Jump in.
Ladies and gentlemen, Autobots and Decepticons, Quintessons of all ages, and everyone else, welcome to Binging Barbie. I'm your host, John, and with me I have my co-host. I'm sorry, Jay. I can't send you back to Subliddle 49. I need you here, with me.
Are you kidding me? I get to work for the government?
Ah, ha, 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 ha. Yes.
That was the biggest laugh in my theater.
Yeah, same in mine. Same in mine. Anyway, this is a podcast about toy media franchises, 2000 nostalgia, and whatever else we want to talk about. And this week we are discussing the newly released animated Transformers movie, Transformers 1. Yeah. And if you're new to this
Yeah.
series, we are going through Transformers. So stay tuned for
Yeah.
all of that.
Yeah, this is a little bit out of order. We're releasing this episode a little separate from the timeline. We've been going through the Michael Bay Transformers movies, but we're jumping ahead a little bit to talk about this since it just came out. This is Transformers 1. How was your theatrical experience? Because for context, John and I went to see an early screenings of the movie that we happened to find.
Yeah, this is the week before it officially comes out, or a week or two before. It was fine. I sent you I sent you a message because for some reason, like 6 minutes before they played a 6 minute special look at the film that we were about to watch, where it's like, oh, the actors they're talking about like, oh, this role or this character and such, and it all sounds very fake, as you know.
Yeah.
They have to do this publicity thing for marketing. It's all it doesn't. I hate it. I was dying the entire time. I was like constantly hiding my eyes away so I'm not being spoiled on like third act imagery, or
Yeah.
just learning about the characters. I didn't want to hear any of that. It was like, no, stop. Just play the film.
Yeah, that surprises me because they didn't play any of that at my theater. They just had the like little message of the actors saying thank you for showing up to the movie that Paramount does in front of all of their movies.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, we did that too, but that was like the ending section of the 6 minute thing, which was
Yeah, that's
honestly
interesting that they did that.
poorly edited. If I'm gonna be honest, I don't understand why they did that. Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
And the only
I
trailer
heard
we
about
saw was
this.
for Sonic 3.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I heard about this happening at like the early screenings of Dungeons and Dragons last year. Which I went to an early screening of that and didn't get any of the pre-roll, so it must be different theaters doing different things.
Must be.
Yeah, they played the trailer for Sonic 3 in front of mine. They didn't play the Minecraft movie trailer, which I was surprised by.
I mean, this is early access, so
Yeah.
Minecraft probably isn't Paramount, so
yeah, no, it is Warner Brothers. I was just kind of surprised because it seems like there would be some demographic overlap. Yeah, was your theater relatively full?
I'd say about a third to maybe half full.
Okay.
All scattered about.
Yeah. The one I was at was actually more full than I was expecting it to be. The row I was in was completely full. I was in the one of those like recliner theaters, so I couldn't really tell what the other rows were like. But it seemed relatively full, which kind of surprised me. I haven't heard a ton of buzz for this movie. Maybe just because it's a more aimed at kids.
Well, Transformers fans are definitely talking. So I've been seeing a lot of buzz. So yeah.
Well, yeah, you're definitely more plugged into that space than I am. But yeah, anyway, this is Transformers 1. The idea for an animated Transformers movie has actually been kicking around for almost 10 years now. It was first sort of dreamed up by the Transformers Writers Room that was established back in 2015. This was after the release of Age of Extinction. We'll talk about it a bit on that episode, but Paramount came up with a big writers' room full of people to come up with new ideas for Transformers movies. And out of that, we have gotten The Last Knight, which was not particularly well received, Bumblebee, Rise of the Beasts, and now Transformers 1. And this was originally announced as in the works way back in 2017, but it doesn't look like any major work got done on it until 2020, which is when director Josh Cooley was hired. So this has been in production for a little bit. Not surprising for an animated movie, but yeah, this was released September 20, 2024. Or if you're listening on the day we release this, it will be released. Because obviously they have the Thursday afternoon screenings. This is directed by Josh Cooley, who is probably most well known as the director of Toy Story 4. Got his start over at Pixar, then jumped over to Paramount for this movie. It's written by Eric Pearson and Andrew Barrer and Gabriel Ferrari. Good name for a Transformers movie. Pearson has written a bunch of MCU stuff, including Agent Carter, Thor Ragnarok, Black Widow, the upcoming Thunderbolts, Fantastic Four, and Blade movies. He also did uncredited rewrites on a bunch of the Avengers movies, a whole bunch of like Marvel stuff that he's been involved in. And then Barrère and Ferrari wrote for Ant-Man and the Wasp. So we're seeing a very heavy presence of MCU people here.
You can kind of see, you can kind of tell. Yeah.
We have production designed by Jason William Shire, who previously worked as a visual development and concept artist on a bunch of DreamWorks projects, including Megamind, How to Train Your Dragon 2, and Trolls. And then we have music by Brian Tyler, who is an extremely prolific composer. Have you heard of Brian Tyler or noticed his name in the credits for things?
Yes. He does a lot of video game music that I know I'm familiar with.
Yeah.
So. But he also worked on, name the list.
Oh, yeah. He worked on Now You Can See Me, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the 2014 one, Furious 7, Crazy Rich Asians, the Super Mario Bros. Movie, a whole bunch of other projects. It was interesting just scrolling through his IMDb and seeing everything he had worked on. He also did the score for some MCU movies, Iron Man 3, Thor the Dark World, and Avengers Age of Ultron. So again, I think this is kind of, I guess Brian Tyler had worked probably with some of the other people working on here, but it does feel like they're intentionally picking up some MCU talent here. And then he also composed the score for the Transformers Prime TV show,
which I could definitely hear the resemblance in a lot of moments. So
that's cool. I was curious about that because I haven't seen any of the shows.
Yeah. So let's go over the plot, and
we should quick say we are going to be doing spoilers here, for the rest of this episode. If we want, do we want to just give like quick non-spoiler reactions for people who haven't seen it yet, since this is coming out the same day as the movie?
No.
Okay.
No.
We'll let people
they can leave and watch the film and come back, or they can spoil themselves. It's their choice.
Yeah, there are spoilers for this, but it's not the most innovative of plots.
Okay. All right, spoiler free. We see the rise of Optimus Prime and Megatron. There you go. All right, let's get into spoilers. Okay, so Orion Pax and D16 are two lowly bots working in the Energon mines of Iacon. That's an I. Okay.
Yes.
An underground city on Cybertron. Many years before, Energon flowed freely, and the sources dried up after the Quintessons attacked all of the primes besides Sentinel went missing. And so Sentinel Prime now leads missions to the surface in search of the Matrix of Leadership, which is said will restore Cybertron to its former glowing glory. Specifically, bring back Danner John somehow.
Yeah.
That's a whole thing. Anyway, through a series of misadventures, Orion and D end up at the lowest point of the city where they meet B-127 upon a sign to sort through trash. And B has unknowingly found a map that leads to the last known location of the primes on the surface of Cybertron. The exact same thing that Orion is looking for.
Yeah.
Convenient.
Well,
Anyway,
Sentinel.
yes. They escape the city, accidentally bringing Alita 1, their former boss, with them, and the team find a cave filled with the dead bodies of the Primes. One of them, Alphatron, is still barely alive and tells the team what actually happened. They were betrayed by Sentinel, who is actually working with the Quintessons. Quintessons. It's hard to pronounce that word. Quintessons.
Yeah.
I keep wondering. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, horrified, the team tried to head back to Iacon and warn their fellow bots, but they are captured by the High Guard, warriors who once worked with the Primes. So D and B are captured by Sentinel. So Orion and Lolita come up with a plan to take over Iacon by revealing Sentinel for who he really is. They are successful, but D is overcome with anger. He tries to kill Sentinel, and Orion stops him and D lets him fall to his death, killing Sentinel and taking his place as leader of Cybertron and becoming Megatron. Orion falls into the core of Cybertron, where he is given the the matrix of leadership by Primus, the planet itself. Orion becomes Optimus Prime because he's optimistic and returns to Icon, defeating Megatron and exiling him. And in an after credits scene, Megatron and a group of former High Guard are who were also exiled take on the name Decepticons. Which honestly, this should have been the mid credits scene instead of the one we got with B.
Yeah, I am curious what the thought process behind that was. Because yeah,
Yeah.
usually Marvel puts the like more. I guess it really depends. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, story. That's a lot of names and a lot of characters who we know being called by names we don't know them as,
Well, you.
or I don't know them as. Are
Yeah.
there shows with these names?
Uh, so I think Megatron. That's the first time we hear him by that name. Although that name is supposed to be a reference to some Japanese toy thing, or maybe that's
Okay.
Bumblebee. It's one of those things. But Alita is a character that we've not yet seen in any of these films, but she is a prominent member, a prominent part of Optimus's backstory in many of the shows. So
Okay.
I'll get more to her
Does
later.
she become RC in other
No,
versions?
she and RC are completely different characters.
Okay. Interesting.
Yes,
Yeah.
confusing. I know.
It's yeah, this is we'll get into like our thoughts overall on the stories, but yeah, the various names of everyone and the names of places. And I'm trying to write this summary without. Usually, I'll have like the Wikipedia summary open, so if I'm like, "What was the name of the city?" I can just look at the summary and go, "Oh yeah, it was called Iacon." Here, I had to like look up Google what is the capital city of Cybertron to find
Yes.
because I couldn't remember. I should have brought a notebook to the theater.
Yeah, if you could even see. Luckily, the film follows pretty decently the lore of Transformers,
Okay.
somewhat, somewhat. So the
Yeah.
names are all pretty accurate for the most part.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah. The story. This is the so I've had my theory before that I've shared, which is that somewhere in Hollywood there's some vault, and it's just like the kids animated movie story. It's all written out, all laid out, and it's just you fill in the blanks with your things. And I think every once in a while they swap out the story. Because when we were growing up, it was like the two friends go on an adventure and it tests their relationship, but then they're friends again by the end of it. Like Toy
Yeah.
Story type thing. And more recently it's been replaced by the story of a seemingly functional city led by some great leader, but it turns out the leader is actually a villain, and now the heroes have to turn against him to save the people. Um, Obviously, this has like roots in
This
long-standing
is
story traditions.
Yeah, this is like one of those classic hero or story mythologies that you'd find, like the hero's
Yeah.
journey and whatnot. But this is a plot very if you take the plot very loosely, just leave out all the names that I've seen so many times in so many
Yeah.
kids films, specifically kid films, sometimes in young
Yeah.
adult films, but I've seen this plot so many times. You can name a few.
Oh yeah. No, I think because there have been like we talked about this is basically the plot of Bionicle Legends of Metro Nui, to name like an older
Yeah,
example
that is an old one,
that
yeah.
we've talked about. Um but yeah, no, we get this thing. I think there's a modern wave of these things that starts the origin point that I've identified is Zootopia,
Okay.
which has a lot of these tropes. It doesn't play out the exact same way that it does here, but we have the like city, something weird's going on. Oh no, it's the mayor who's spoilers for Zootopia. Oh no, it's the mayor or the mayor's assistant. It's someone who we
Yeah.
previously trusted as a character. Um, then we get stuff closer to what Transformers One is doing, stuff like Coco or more recently Nimona, pretty much the exact same plot, or Disney's Wish, also pretty much exactly the same plot as this. Um, but then we also get similar ideas in like Frozen 2 or Trolls World Tour or The Bad Guys, Spider Man Across the Spider Verse. Basically, this is. I can't seem to find this, so I don't know if I'm making this up or if this is actually a thing. But I seem to remember in college talking about a framework for understanding story structures that places everything in context of the city. The city being like whatever the status quo is. So there's stories that are
Right.
about building the city or building the status quo. Stories about defending the city or defending the status quo. So that would be like a lot of superhero stories. And then there's stories about opposing the city, opposing the status quo. Um, and that is very much what these all fit into. Of we have this government, this city that is established, and um, there's something wrong going on, and now the heroes have to try and solve whatever issue it is. Um, yeah, I just find it interesting that that is currently the go-to. Like even stuff like Black Panther has elements of this. The Star Wars prequel trilogy is very much this. Um, yeah, it's just an interesting structure, and I think
Yeah.
there is it's I think there are like real world trends that are influencing this. It's just kind of odd to see this many versions of this type of story, especially in kids media, where before it used to be most kids stories were again like two characters, they're friends, they go on an adventure, it tests their relationship, but by the end they're friends again.
Or even
Now we're
just
getting
the typical hero's journey,
yeah,
but done in like a different way.
which
Honestly, like
there
that
are
same
elements
thing is
here.
done here with
Yeah,
Orion. It's like you have to. We'll talk more about that later once we get the
yeah.
characters. But you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, yeah, that is also very much present here. Though here they don't have the reconciliation that you get with stuff like I don't know. The one that I always think of as like the most default is Scoob, the animated bad
Okay.
Scooby Doo movie, where it's
Yeah.
like, oh, Scooby and Shaggy, they're best friends. Now they're going on an adventure together. Oh no, now they're falling out because someone said something the other one doesn't like. But no, now they're friends again. That whole thing.
Yeah. That whole
Wreck It
thing.
Ralph 2, that kind of.
I
Anyway,
reckon
yeah,
that we'll see that type of plot again in future stuff when we get to that. Whenever.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, this is just, I mean, yeah, the plot is functional. It's also,
Yes.
at what point did you know Sentinel was the villain?
Um. So. So villain. Like obviously when Orion's what's his name? Ultra Trion,
Yeah,
the old
yeah.
guy. Yeah. It's a lot of names to remember. I know the character, but I keep forgetting. It's the old one that does stuff with Optimus. That guy. That's how I
Yeah,
describe
yeah.
him. Um, Obviously when it says like, "Oh, he's a coward," then I'm like, okay. But before then, I was thinking less of he's the villain and more like, oh, he's just lying about going up there, and
Yeah.
he's probably just sitting in his room enjoying luxury, not doing anything. But when they revealed that he was the one that actually destroyed them, I was like, oh, okay. Well, that's familiar. I wonder what else they've seen that in. But it was you can tell very early on that he's definitely lying about his intentions.
Oh yeah.
So
That was
especially
as
with a
soon as
spider
the
lady right
announcement.
next to him. Yeah.
We'll talk about the Spider Lady.
Yeah.
Like as soon as they announced Sentinel Prime is about to address everyone, and he like shows up and he's all, I mean, he's John hamming it up, doing a very like, he's laying it on thick. You're like, okay, there is something up with this guy. He's not telling the truth. I was in a similar place of, I was like, oh, I think he's not actually going up to the surface, and I don't know why. But I figured he's gonna probably end up being especially like, I don't have much context for these, but having seen Dark of the Moon, I immediately, when they announced, oh, it's Sentinel Prime, he's in charge, I was like, oh, I wonder if he's gonna betray anyone. And then when he shows up, I was like, oh yeah, he's gonna betray some people.
Yeah. I was thinking more the 2000s animated cartoon where the Sentinel was just um he is a prime in name only. He's a big
Okay.
coward,
Which
very
he is
arrogant.
here in name only.
Yeah, he's in that he's a rival to Optimus. He'll take credit for anything, doesn't do anything himself, which is he's okay. He's Sidorak essentially.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
He's Sidorak in that show, but he's not full on villain quite yet.
Yeah. Yeah. What did you think of the plot? I feel like I've
Um, I think yeah. Looking back, it is a pretty basic plot that you've seen hundreds of times, but I think the story itself actually kind of fits pretty well in this world. For
okay.
me, I don't like the dialogue writing.
Yeah. Yeah, we can talk about this. Definitely feels like something that was written by three MCU veterans. Just in the way it approaches character and the way it approaches story, and especially the humor.
Yes. I mean, not even just the humor, just the way characters speak to each other. They're speaking of their hopes and aspirations. There's so much humanism or earthism in this Transformers stuff. There's so much colloquialisms in the way they say things. Steve should not be a word used
Okay.
on
I like
Cybertron.
I like Steve as like the joke being this is an alien name to them, like he just made up gibberish. But I definitely get what you're saying with how they are, yeah, how they are approaching
Yeah,
the way they
like
talk.
they'll like have like your typical PG swears that they use. Like
Yeah.
someone will say, "Oh my god," and I'm like, "Do Transformers have that? I thought it was Primus." Um, and then there's that one scene where Orion almost does the middle finger, and I'm like, "Well,
Yeah,
one,
I was
one that should not be in a kids film." even if like, oh, kids film is for everyone, still that should not be part of the kids film. Two, why are we having this very human gesture on Cybertron? Three,
Yeah.
why is it Orion doing that gesture? Again, that's basically how they did his character type. But then the way like he and D will speak, and this is also part of the performance side, but like the way they talk to each other, the way characters interact in like a fun buddy way is just like, okay, this isn't very robotic or alien. It
Yeah.
feels like I'm watching a normal animated film. Like this could just be set in like a weird dystopian young adult thing where they're people, but no, they do that with Transformers here, and I don't feel the difference between a Transformers and a human, which is one thing. I'm glad that we don't have humans, but I feel disappointed that they just gave the Transformers the human emotions and dialogue, which is it's something, I
Yeah.
guess.
I mean, I think it succeeds in what they're going for, which is they want to be like they want to create a story that is very accessible to all types of audiences. And yeah, they're going for that like MCU house style of the very quippy banter, the very down or like human way that the characters talk to each other. But yeah, as you're saying it, there's something missing in terms of like feeling like Transformers.
Well, I wouldn't say there's something missing. They're just going too much on the human side because I so far have watched three different animated cartoons, and in those three, there's a distinct difference between how the Transformers speak to each other and to humans, and how the humans speak to each other. And you can tell the difference is like, okay, one, the Transformers, they're alien, they're not from Earth, and two, they don't understand Earth customs and Earth speak. I
Yeah.
don't get any of that from watching this film, and that's because they put all Earth speak into the Transformer speak. Just to, it's just so that they can have a wider audience instead of being true to the lore or whatever.
Yeah. And I mean part of it is just that this style is a bit overdone. Especially again the MCU stuff. It's just we've seen this all before in a way that wasn't particularly exciting. Like the way I was thinking of it is I have now seen what is this 9 at the point we're recording this episode I have seen 4 Transformers movies. It doesn't feel like any of these have been made because someone sat down and said, I really want to make a Transformers movie and tell a story with these characters. It always feels like Paramount is looking at their stuff and says, hey, we haven't put out a Transformers movie in 2 years. We should maybe do that again. And so it gets
Yeah,
written because it has to be written rather than because anyone has anything interesting to say. And that can lead to good movies when the people involved have can come up with something interesting to say. I mean, I know you aren't as big a fan of this, but Greta Gerwig's Barbie, she was brought on because Margot Robbie wanted to make a Barbie movie. And Greta Gerwig came on, but had an idea and had a direction to go in. Whereas this feels to me a bit like, yeah, all of the elements are there. I just don't sense that the people behind this are telling this story because they want to tell this story versus because this is the story that they've been told to tell.
right.
There's moments that I think break through that. I think the relationship between Optimus and Megatron is more engaging than that. But yeah, I think that's kind of why this ends up being a very typical kids animated movie story. Whereas something like Nimona has the same plot, But when I watch Nimona, I get the sense that the people behind it are trying to tell a story and have a personal connection with the material that they're trying to bring out. I know you're not as big a fan of Nimona as I am, but
Right. Yeah. And that's for different structural reasons, but yeah,
yeah, yeah,
I I think that this film gets close to what I would want to see in this type of story with the rise of Optimus Prime and Megatron, but again, I just don't love the way they write certain elements that I can tell and know that I've seen it 100 times in so many Hollywood cartoons, like animated films for kids, and that's just what they go to
yeah.
instead of. Because I feel like I could pop open an episode of like the '80s cartoon or any of the cartoons and be like, okay, this feels like the people in charge actually thought this through and actually have a story to tell, and they want to do this. Where here they're like, okay, this is the plot line people seem to want to tell. That's what they've been telling us for years to do. Let's do that. Let's take a look at the Wikipedia article, grab some names, put some things in. We'll get like an expert to look over the script and be like, yeah, okay, that's close enough, and then we'll send it over.
Which that sounds like the way that the MCU does stuff. Which I mean,
Yeah.
to a certain extent, you have people like James Gunn who come in with more personal ideas, but a lot of the development of that stuff, like I think that's why they've been having trouble with Blade, especially, is they keep bringing people on and they're like, we want a Blade movie and we want it to fit in the MCU, and there's just like so much expectation over top of it that whoever is writing the the actual screenplay doesn't have a whole lot of space to bring their own personality into it. And so you just end up, and that's been the problem with the MCU for a while now. You just kind of end up with, we're making a Black Widow movie because it's time to make a Black Widow movie. And so to see that
Yeah.
with Transformers, I mean that has also been the case with Transformers, but at least with like the Michael Bay movies, those have some personality. It feels like Michael Bay is trying to say something with those movies. I disagree with a lot of the stuff he's trying to say, but he's saying something.
They're unique to his perspective,
Yeah, yeah,
we should say. But I will say that this is probably the better of the Transformers films. Not that there's much
yeah,
in terms of competition and just solid, but
yeah. This
this is
is
like,
the
yeah,
best
this
by
is
default.
solid. We have problems because we keep seeing this thing pop up, but overall, it is well done enough.
Yeah, the story is functional. It doesn't have
Yes.
weird tangents and side plots. It's not an hour and a half too long. Everything is coherent. There are themes, there are story ideas, there are characters who have arcs. It is, yeah, it's by default the best of the Transformers movies, but it is kind of by default.
Yeah. In terms of like best of the franchise, probably not. I'd choose one of the cartoons, but
Yeah,
yes. In terms of like the theatrically released films, this is the best one from beginning to end.
yeah. I there are moments that I liked, which I did want to talk about that briefly before we move on. There is
Sure.
some darkness here. I was hoping they would go like full, not full 80s the Transformers the movie in terms of that, but I was wishing they would
Right.
push things a little bit further, just like bring in a little bit more darkness. But what we got here was good. We get the massacre of all of the primes. We get Megatron executing Sentinel Prime, which I thought was very well handled here in how it feels like. Yeah, it just they sold that moment really well. And honestly, the entire third act, I have issues with some of the pacing, but I was excited when the like when our RC and the whole army are like descending into the city, and there's stuff shooting each other, and everyone's
Yeah.
explosions and boom and bang, and the score is going crazy. It's like, oh yeah, this is working on
Yeah.
some level for me, even if the plot is not all that interesting.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I like. I think maybe if we get our next couple films that I think they're planning on doing, maybe the next one will be much darker. If we're going to war
Yeah,
against Quintessons, or if Megatron comes in and stabs people in the back, which we'll see. We'll see what they do with Megatron, because he's more than just an angry
I,
warlord. He is a conniver who.
I have to assume if they make another one, I would expect they're kind of going for a trilogy, and if this does well, I can see them doing three whole movies. I would kind of expect the next one is going to be Optimus and Megatron have to team up versus the Quintessons. And we get some more interpersonal drama there. And then the third one will be the big them fighting each other movie.
That leads to the destruction of Cybertron, which
Yeah.
leads them to leave or something.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah.
I
We'll
could
see
see
what they
them
do.
swapping the two
Yeah.
around and doing Optimus versus Megatron in the second one, and then the third one being them teaming up versus the Quintessons.
Maybe. Yeah.
But
Either one
yeah,
are fine.
they will team up at some point, I imagine, because that just you need the character drama of them two
Right.
interacting.
Plus, it's very thematic and theatrical to do that sort of thing. It will look
Yeah,
cool too. That is to say.
yeah.
Yeah.
I am like, yeah, you bring up a sequel, and I mean, part of it is I do kind of hope this ends up being a trilogy, just because when they do trilogies, the second part is always allowed to be darker and weirder
Hmm.
than the other two parts. I guess not always, but generally. Um,
Yeah.
so that would excite me, especially seeing more Quintessons and getting more weird tentacle stuff. But
Okay. That's weird.
in the H.P. Lovecraft way, not in the other way. Um,
Okay.
yeah, I but yeah, this is like I will go and see a new one, partially just because we'll have to for the podcast. But I am curious to
Uh,
see what direction they take things. This is a solid base to start things on, but it's not going to win any awards. It's not. I'm going to forget about this in like
I mean,
2 hours.
it could win awards. What other stuff is coming out this year? We'll find out next year if it does or not. It might. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't have my finger on the pulse of the best animated feature race this year like I did last year, so we'll see. It's not going to
We'll
win
see.
best animated feature though. I can guarantee that.
I don't
Anyway,
know. I don't know. I feel like with the way they tend to treat
no,
animation, they're probably gonna choose this one.
no. Here's the thing though, because they have been very anti-toy movies
Hmm.
to the extent that like the Lego
Ah.
movie and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, the one from last year, didn't even get nominated.
Okay.
So this would have to be like Spider Verse levels of good in order
Well,
to
I'd say
break
there's
through
probably a
that.
reason more for Turtles than Lego, but yeah, I can see the trend.
I mean,
Although
Elemental got
Trolls,
nominated instead of Turtles. I guess people liked. Oh yeah, Boss Baby got nominated, and the Lego Movie couldn't. Those were different years, though. There was something that year that
yeah.
got nominated. That's like, how did this get in and not the Lego Movie? Anyway, that we'll save that
Oh
conversation
wait.
for if we ever do.
Oh, Inside Out 2 probably will win. We'll see. Uh,
Yeah, that's
tell
probably
us what you what.
unless
Tell us what you gave the story.
yeah, I gave before we get too far on the Oscar conversation because I could do that for 2 hours. I gave the story a 3 out of 5.
Yes, I gave it a 3.2 because they did stuff slightly better. Sure, whatever. Let's just say that's the way I rated it. Why not? All right.
Characters. We have Orion Pax, aka Optimus Prime.
Yeah.
He's the typical hothead protagonist, which I think you alluded to having a bit of an issue with.
I mean, I see what they're trying to do, and we got more closer to Optimus near the end. But it was just a thing where I've seen this character archetype in so many films,
Yeah.
very similar films, and it just when Optimus showed up and I saw him, it was like, wait, is he being that a character archetype? Oh, that's not as interesting. Well, one, that's not the same Orion Pax that I remember, but I know they're doing something different, so I was like, okay, we'll see where this goes. But I know where this is going to go. It's that one vagabond who everybody knows is the vagabond. It's like, Orion Pax, this guy again. He's a goofy fella. And then he goes on his journey, gets the magical weapon or something, and then he becomes the hero. It's just I wish they did something different than something I've seen so many times before. But again,
Yeah.
we understand that they just choose the same archetype because of I don't know, they want to put the effort into doing something
I
different for
mean,
a kids film.
it is a trope for a reason, a common trope for a reason, which is that the
Yeah,
arc
it
of
is.
this is the kind of irresponsible person who has to like grow up and learn to be a leader. Like that is a compelling arc when done well. Here I would
But
say it is done competently.
I feel like Optimus here Orion here acts a lot more of how I would think Bumblebee will act than Orion would.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's fair to say.
Mm-hmm.
I'm less familiar with the characters, but yeah, that does sound accurate. I think that is an interesting direction to go with Optimus as like, hey, this is his backstory. This is how he started out. I just again we've
It's
seen this arc
it's a different
done better.
direction that we've seen for the character, which is,
Yeah.
I guess, fresh and different. But it's not quite fresh and different because this has been done so many times and done slightly better in some of
Yeah.
the cases.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
we
this is
got we,
Takua from from Bionicle.
Taku. Yeah,
I guess,
well,
and his arc is even more interesting than that because he's actually like refusing the call anyway. Yeah.
right. Yeah, well. Anyway, anyway, um,
I
yeah,
like
I
that. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, I was leading to the same thing. I do like that the focal point of this film is his relationship to Megatron or D16 or something.
Yeah, yeah, D16. Yeah, it is. I can see a version of this movie that is so much worse because it focuses less on that relationship. So the
Hmm.
fact that we start out with these two characters and we follow them and their journey together through the whole movie. Like I was even thinking of this. It's kind of weird that there are four protagonists here and not five or six, the way there often are for toy movies.
Yeah,
Like the fact that it is just Optimus, Megatron, B, and RC, like that
Alita.
is the least amount of these characters that you can have and still get away with it for like a toy movie. Because you need the protagonist, you need the one he's kind of butting heads with, you need the funny one, and you need the girl. And usually they want to add another couple in there. But here, no, they're like, we are doing these four. I kind of wish it was just the two of them for more of the movie, but again, this is a toy movie, so I think they just kind of have to have the whole group along.
Yeah, and we need the girl one
Yeah,
for
yeah, we need the girl one and we need the funny one. I think the movie would be
yeah.
better if they left the girl one and the funny one at Cybertron and then maybe teamed back up with them when they got back. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't. Again, it is impressive that they got away with it, because I can imagine studio executives were not necessarily thrilled that there were only going to be 4 big toys for the movie. I guess you
Plus all the
probably have,
background characters
yeah,
that people would recognize if they're true Transformers fans.
yeah. I mean, even stuff, I can imagine that they put out like a new Starscream figure for this, or a new.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is, I don't know. It is impressive that they're able to do that. I think in an ideal world where they don't have any responsibilities to toy marketing, this would be just Orion and Dee and their relationship together. The way that something like Nimona is about Nimona and the main guy,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
since that doesn't have an obligation to to sell toys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I overall think that Orion is a competent protagonist.
Yeah. His progression to Optimus is pretty well seen. It does
Yeah,
flow naturally with the way the plot delves. Um,
I like the
mm,
scene where he's talking with the miners.
yeah, uh, I'll talk more about that in terms when we get to performance. But once we got closer to the ends, I liked some
Yeah.
choices that were done.
Well, yeah, on to
That's,
D16, aka Megatron. He's the like the responsible one of the duo.
yeah,
I'm trying to think of, because there's an example in the back of my mind of like these exact 2 characters. And I think it's just that they show up so often that I can't recall any specific example. But you have the hothead and the responsible one, and they have like an antagonistic relationship with each other.
you'll find that in many anime. I
Yeah.
don't know if I can name
I mean,
one.
it's everywhere in
It is
kids media,
everywhere.
and
Yes,
in adult media, and in teen media.
it's Anakin and Obi-Wan in a sense.
Yeah, that's a good comparison.
That's the first
Although
one that came to my
here
mind.
here their
But
roles, where they end up, is swapped.
yes,
Okay,
yes.
so here's a question I have for
Mm.
you. Do you buy how quickly Megatron switches from, like, I don't know. I don't know what he's switching from into. I put it as in the notes as his switch over to quote unquote evil, but I don't
Yeah.
think that's entirely
I
an
buy
accurate
maybe
description.
2/3 of it. I
Okay.
buy him wanting to kill Sentinel and
Yeah.
arguing with Optimus about it, but that full on switch where he lets go of Optimus and like it's like, all right, I'm gonna kill you now. I don't. It is a little quick. It's like we went from 7 to 10, and I feel like we needed those 3 extra
Yeah.
points to get there. It's like they did
Yeah.
most of the
I
work.
like
They did most of the work,
yeah.
so I can fill in the gaps. But I wish we got those gaps seen.
Yeah. I do kind of wish, yeah, that this had focused a bit more on his arc the way it does focus on Orion. I actually, that moment I think is so fascinating, because I was excited when that was showing up, because I was surprised that they took it there in a kids movie, just because when we meet D, we're supposed to feel positively about him, and then to have him do something that sort of severe, it's like, oh, that is an interesting choice for them to make. I was even saying though about like, or thinking about when he, after it's revealed that Sentinel is responsible, and he's like, oh, I want to kill him, I thought they were maybe laying it on a little bit too thick there.
I okay, so I think the moment I'm thinking of isn't quite the moment where he kills Optimus. I could maybe
Yeah.
see that. It's the moment when Optimus Prime is revealed to have the Matrix of Leadership. He goes full on crazy mode. I wish there was a moment where he killed Sentinel, and so the crowd is like cheering for him. They're on his side. Then Optimus shows up, and he's like, "Oh, look at that! He's got the thingy." And so they all join in his side because he has that, and then that leads to the, okay, well, I don't want to do that. And then he goes crazy to take over leadership, but instead
Yeah.
he kills him. Is like, okay, I guess we're gonna kill everyone now, and so everybody starts firing at everyone, um,
Which
which
I think that moment would actually land better if we didn't have the earlier moments of D being like, I'm gonna kill Sentinel and being serious about it. If that was more stuff that he did in anger in the moment, rather than having it be that premeditated.
or maybe we don't have the moment where he lets go of Orion and let him drop.
I
Maybe we
mean,
just
but
have
I like that
Orion
moment.
drop. I know. It is really well, but I think if we take that moment out and do what I said, I think you'd buy it a little bit more. But it's not as cinematic as him letting go like Mufasa and
Yeah.
Scar.
I think point is that like they do a good job with his arc, but it's not quite there.
Mm,
Like there's
mm.
just a little bit of connective tissue missing between the different points in the arc. And for me it was the early points that I felt it more. But it did definitely, like when he kills Sentinel, it's like, we're not gonna follow anyone anymore. That's why you should follow me. It's like, okay, that doesn't, you're jumping from one extreme to another here.
I think what could have helped is if they played his character more seriously from the beginning. Because he
Yeah.
is like he is the responsible one, but the way he interacts and hangs out with Orion, his dialogue doesn't quite come across in the way. And of course, that could be a performance thing, but if he was like more serious in his tone and more matter of fact, like get the job done, um, I
Yeah, if
could
they had
probably
foreshadowed that a little bit better earlier on.
that because that way you'd have like a more interesting dynamic of like instead of two
Yeah.
friends who kind of act and talk similarly to each other, you have one friend who's the serious one who studies, and then you have the roommate who's always partying, and so the roommate comes back and the other one's like, what, you're gonna fail your class, come on,
Yeah.
you gotta study.
Honestly, honestly, I was kind of surprised at the start of the movie when they establish Optimus is like the hothead and Megatron is the rule follower. I thought they were going to have that be like their divide at the end. That Megatron's arc was going to be, he is so obsessed with the rules that it leads him to becoming like evil.
Mm.
Rather than here, which I think the outline of it is very good, which is he is let down by the system that he believed in so deeply, and that leads him to snap. I just think they don't quite sell the snap well enough. They put a little bit too much on one side of the snap, so then when the snap actually happens, it's like, well, he was talking about this the whole time, so it kind of feels like, yeah, I don't know. Again, I think there's just like little, I like the outline of the arc. I just think there's
Yeah,
little bits and pieces in the execution that could have been handled a little better.
yeah, and like this is the most that we've gone out of this plot line because
Yeah.
we don't really ever get to see this in any of the animations. Like if we did, it's
Oh,
like
okay.
if we did, it's talking from the perspective of like Optimus thinking back on it, and all we
Yeah.
get is like his 2 sentence backstory of him explaining it. We never,
Yeah.
as far as my memory is concerned, we've never actually seen it come into fruition. Their separation. Um, Because in the 80s cartoon, they were not friends before
Okay.
things broke apart. It was they met when Megatron was already evil, but Megatron was like pretending to be his friend, and then he stabbed him in the back, actually shot him in the back, and then he became
Oh,
Optimus
so a
Prime
Dumbledore
afterwards.
Grindelwald type relationship there.
Sure, yeah, pretty much. I don't know what you
Oh,
mean, but yes.
so okay, here's what just occurred to me. You know what I wanted this to be? I wanted this to be Charles and Eric in X-Men First Class.
Oh,
Where in X-Men First Class, you have these two characters who are established, not like one to one these characters, but you have these two characters who have this friendship and who have these similar ideas and goals, but they have like just enough difference that when it comes down to like the final confrontation and Eric takes things too far, it breaks their friendship. But the thing about First Class is throughout the whole thing, you're also supposed to see Eric's side. Whereas here, once Megatron starts talking about how he wants to kill Sentinel, you're not supposed to be on his side anymore as the audience.
yeah, and we mostly see things from Optimus's perspective when he
Yeah.
when his eyes start changing. It's like usually when Optimus is seeing that happen.
Yeah. Yeah. That was just kind of something that came to my mind as we were talking through this now. That maybe I'm like, oh, I
Orion
wish this was more
Optimus.
First Class. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
They're
You
the
get it. You
same.
get it.
Yep. Uh, B127, Bumblebee.
Oh
He
boy.
he doesn't get his name here.
Correct. Yes.
He's the comedic relief. I think you were pointing out that Optimus gets B's characterization here, so I think B they just like tune him up way too much.
I was also surprised that they chose to do B for this story because B is typically supposed to be the young one of the Transformers
Yeah.
team. And to see him here at the beginning, it's like, okay, you have Optimus, you got Megatron, you got Alita. Those three make sense. Bumblebee? I feel like he's only here because he's a popular character, but I would have
Exactly.
chosen
Consider for a second
anyone
the money
else.
that they will make from toy sales from him being in
Yes,
this movie.
yes, I know. I know. That's
Uh,
the reason they did it, but
yeah.
there's so many other characters that would fit this timeline so much better. Again, this is a whole new timeline, but
Yeah.
still.
I would have liked to see that version of this, especially because it might mean that this character isn't along for the whole journey, and it gets to focus a bit more on the Megatron and Optimus relationship.
Right.
Again,
I also
I just wish this was First Class.
I also don't really feel like this really works as Bumblebee because here
Okay.
he's just comedic relief jokes, kind of silly, self-aware humor, who's also awkward. B, I don't get the sense that he's the inexperienced young kid thrown into battle. He feels older, and again, that could also be because the actor portraying him is like not young, to put it nicely.
He
So I don't get
I
his
think
youthful spirit as much.
yeah. I think I felt the like not maybe youthful energy, but he did
He
seem younger
had
than the other
energy.
characters.
It's not the one that I typically associate with Bumblebee. Is
Yeah.
what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I don't know much about Bumblebee because in the Michael Bay movies, he's just kind of a dog, and
Yeah,
in his own movie, he's like a child soldier who has amnesia,
who
so
never speaks
he
as
can't
well.
talk.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
so I don't know much about who he is as a character. So I think that is fair. I this is just a pet peeve of mine. I don't like comedic relief characters in general, and the way that they are constantly pointing out that he is the comedic relief character. Everyone in the movie at some point has a line of like, "Does he ever stop talking?" or "Wow, he sure talks a lot." It's like the writers are saying, "We know this character is annoying, and we are making a joke out of the fact that he is annoying. And because we do that, you need to be okay with him being annoying." It's like, can't we write a better, more interesting character with better, more interesting humor? Does he have to be annoying?
Yeah. Yeah, actually, I think what they need is the visual noise character. The one who's
Yeah,
energetic, visually doing stuff all over the place.
he's here for the kids,
Yeah,
and they make
he's
jokes
here for
about
the
that for the
kids.
parents.
The kids did laugh during his bits, so
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah. The apparently no one in my theater had seen any of the trailers because all of the trailer lines, which I have been seeing for so long, like the knife hands line, got
Yeah.
so much laughter, and I'm like, it's not even that good of a line, and it's also been in the trailer for forever.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also okay, so we were talking about the plot here. I will say there was a kid sitting a few seats down from me who, when they revealed that Sentinel was actually the bad guy, the kid was like, "What? What's going on? This is oh no!" Like actually surprised by the twist. I was a little surprised, but I was like, "Okay, that kid." But I didn't. I don't know. That was the kid who was later waving around a phone turned on. So it's like, parents, when you bring your kids to the theater, turn off the phones.
Yeah.
Especially like in early access screening. Like I am not there because I'm a Transformers fan, but everyone else who's in the audience is there because they're a Transformers fan. I don't think they want a kid waving a phone around in their face.
Yeah. We saw the film because we're covering the series.
Yes.
So
Yeah. Alita, she's
Alita won.
okay. I can't believe they did this because this is a trope that is so overdone that I was kind of thinking they had kind of stopped doing it. But having the I'm putting it in quotes here because I think it's a little mean of a phrase, but the killjoy woman character. Or she shows up and she's the serious one, and you better stop fooling around, boys.
Yeah.
Like we've talked about this trope before because it keeps popping up. Of like, oh, the boys are having fun. They're boys being boys, and then the woman shows up and she's all like serious and she doesn't get it. It's like, can we not do this character archetype in the year of our Lord 2024? Like,
Yeah. And also she
can we
seems to
find
be
a
the
more
most
interesting thing?
action. She's like, I don't know. She's the most
I like that she keeps hitting
skilled.
people.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I just
Um
wish they had found a more interesting character trait for her than she's mean and bossy.
so Alita in the 80s didn't have much going on for her outside of she was kind of Orion's quote unquote love interest in the same way that love is
Okay.
canon in Bionicle. Um, the, where they are friendly and have
Yeah.
quote unquote feelings or affection for each other. And that's generally what their relationship is. But there's typically the tragedy aspect of she goes missing in some sort of war or catastrophe, and so they lose that relationship. There is one version where she becomes the Spider Lady. Um,
Okay.
that is, and she kind of becomes like a pseudo villain after that point because she feels abandoned and such. But she's also in one version like the leader of a freedom fighter group of women Autobots. I don't really know a whole lot in terms of like her characterization in the past 10 years in other shows, but of like the only two that I've seen, that is what she is in those two. So
Okay. Yeah. I don't know. I just wanted a more interesting character here.
I wish they did something more with her than what you
I
just
like,
explained.
yeah. I like her pep talk moment with Orion. I think if we had had more of those type of moments, that would have been given her character a bigger purpose. Or, I mean, just don't have her be along for the quest. Same with B. Just leave them home and have it be Orion and Optimus for most of the
I
movie.
don't quite see her aspirations. Like I guess she wants to
Yeah.
be promoted in charge, but like that's not what we seem to get for most of the film. Most of the film she's just it's like, ah, you boys suck. Why do you keep
Yeah.
doing these stupid things? Ah, I guess
Which
I'll
yeah,
help you.
that is the trope. And
It is
it's
the
a
trope.
little tired. Yeah. On to the villains. We have Sentinel Prime. I feel like his characterization here suffers a little bit because it's been done so many times. Like, okay, as soon as they reveal the like, oh, Sentinel Prime is coming on the thing to give a big speech, I was like, oh, I know exactly what is going to happen in the third act of this movie, which is they are going to use the big PA system and have him say something, and then the whole city will find out that he's actually like, I didn't realize to what extent he was the villain at that point, but even then I was like, oh, we're gonna have that scene because Nimona had that scene, and I think Disney's Wish had that scene, and I'm pretty sure Coco had that scene. I think Zootopia had that scene of just
Yeah,
like the villain is going to monologue, and they're gonna record it, and everyone's gonna find out.
yeah. I wish they just didn't have to destroy the evidence that Alphatron gave him, because I don't know.
Yeah,
We needed the extra 5 minutes. The extra. No, there's not even 5 minutes. It's just like 2 seconds of like, okay. They never explained that their plan was to get the Spider Lady. They're like, oh, hey
yeah.
you, get the Spider Lady.
Also, to that point, we don't know that the Spider Lady can record stuff. Like, I don't think that's set up.
I guess
So they're just like,
everyone
let's get the
can
Spider Lady, and I'm
record.
like, why are we getting the Spider Lady? What is she
Yeah,
gonna do? And then she displays a recording of everything bad that Sentinel has ever said.
and edits it in a way that it's repeating, and you hear the same dialogue
Yeah.
over and over again. And it's not half of it's they don't reveal like the stuff where he's actually like killing everyone. They just
No.
see the ones where he's like, ah, these citizens are suckers. Then they show him bowing. It's like, oh, why don't you show the ones where he's killing everyone? Like, why don't you do any of that? No.
Uh, yeah. This type of character always becomes so much less interesting once the movie stops trying to convince us that they are nice.
Sure. Yes. Yeah.
And I think the only one that I've seen that has a workaround to this, and I don't know to what extent it does because I haven't seen it in a while, but Mortal Engines has a version of this character who has a bit more complexity. And I'm talking like a tiny bit. And even then, I'm like, I haven't seen it, so maybe I'm making stuff up. But yeah, once you know Sentinel is the bad guy, the movie drops any pretense of him having any sympathetic motivations. which is kind of like, yeah, I guess that there's other stuff going on in this movie, but he isn't like the most interesting villain. He's like a lot of the stuff here. He functions within the story, but isn't super engaging beyond that.
Hmm. I'd be more interested if he was, instead of like the evil manipulator. I'd be more interested if he was like the coward, uh,
Yeah,
the one who takes credits for things, the one who doesn't do a whole lot of action. It lets other people do it.
yeah,
Instead
that
of,
might be.
yeah, so like instead of him being the one to fully betray the primes and having him kill them, like he takes over because he was the only one left alive because he ran away or
Or
something.
or even if his relationship with the Quintessons is one of convenience, not I will help you because I have ambitions, but I will help you because I don't want to die,
Yeah,
and then have that be a little bit give him a little bit more complexity than I'm evil. Hooray.
yeah, and so that kind of would help
Like,
elevate
okay.
Megatron's evil.
Yeah, because if Megatron killing Sentinel as is like probably a good idea.
Yes, that is a form of justice.
Yeah.
But if he's just a coward,
Within movie logic. Yeah, if it is, if he was actually like, if Optimus comes along and he's like actually like, oh, I've been just doing what I can do because I'm a coward, but now that you're here, maybe you can stop stuff and I'll like kind of help you out. And then Megatron kills him. Like, yeah, that is so much more impactful of a moment. Or even, yeah, even if it's just like Sentinel Prime in the Michael Bay movie, which we'll be talking about next, where he's begging for mercy and then Optimus shoots him in the back of the head. If you have that moment with Megatron, even that sells it a little bit better than just, oh, Sentinel, he's the villain of the movie. So when Megatron kills him, it's like, well, yeah, that's kind of what happens to villains in movies. Like, we can
yeah,
argue real world if that is actually what justice looks like, but no, within the construct of a movie, the hero can kill the villain. That is allowed.
yeah, because then Optimus here, they don't really delve deeply into his morality there about like why is
Yeah,
he sacrificing himself to save him? We don't really get
yeah,
a reason why.
that's a dumb
It
moment.
just the moment
Unless
happened,
Sentinel,
and I was like, oh well, I know that Optimus is like that in in general, but like, why
yeah,
did he choose to do this at this point for
which
this?
I think
Yeah,
the thing that fixes that, you either have Sentinel has surrendered and is begging for mercy, or you have Optimus be like, I was trying to save to Megatron, I was trying to save you from yourself. Like, if you do this, there's no going back. Instead, we get the like vague gestures towards that, but it doesn't quite land.
yeah, it's that vague goodness thing that we have to do for a kids film.
Yeah,
It's like, okay, or for like superheroes for kids,
yeah,
it's like, okay, instead of like delving into the actual thing, we just know apparently that this is his belief
yeah.
off screen. Um,
Okay,
but that's
so
them. Moving on.
you already know the notes, John, but guess what my favorite character in the movie is?
Arachnid.
She's a spider lady that flies. I I don't like spiders in real life, but give me a spider that is not actually a spider in a movie, and or like in Monster Hunter, there's like a spider creature that you fight. That's my favorite monster in Monster Hunter. I have a like Lego Shelob from Lord of the Rings. I don't like the Shelob's lair seed in Lord of the Rings. I think it is creepy. I love that Lego set. So when the spider lady showed up, I was so excited just for like, again, villain ladies are often my favorite types of characters because they're allowed to be, I don't know. There's just like, I just find them fascinating.
I was
This is my
confused why they chose her.
okay.
Yeah, because like the version I know her of is that she is the Alito one who became the Spider Lady. But I
Yeah.
was confused. It's like, oh wait, the Spider Lady, isn't that a Beast Wars character? Why do we have a spider on Cybertron? It's like, okay, that whatever. But there's deer on Cybertron that they just look like deer, metal deer, and it's like, oh, couldn't you be more creative than just metal deer? I don't know. Okay, whatever. Um, but yeah, she is the cool henchman of the villain.
Yeah. This is like a character archetype that I like. The like um from to keep bringing in X-Men characters, the is it Lady Deathstrike from X2? It's just like she has long fingernails and looks cool.
Yeah, yeah,
That's, or honestly, even Mystique is one
sure,
of my
yeah,
favorite characters in those movies. Just because it's like, yeah, she's allowed to be competent in a way that the main villain, in this case, Magneto is allowed to be competent in the X-Men movies, but she is allowed to be competent in a way that what's his face, Sentinel, isn't allowed to be competent. And she just looks cool. She has like cool legs and turns into a weird flying thingy. I looked up and there's no toy for her. I was a little
ah,
bit disappointed. I was gonna
interesting.
there's like, or maybe this is, I don't know.
She's I don't. She seems very toyetic.
Yeah, I just don't know how you could transform her. Yeah, the one I'm seeing is not at all similar to the version in the movie.
Okay, interesting.
Like, does not, like, transforms into a robot spider and looks horrible when in the like large chested weird expression on the face. Yeah, this is a bad toy.
I was so I was confused, like one that she's a spider, but also
Yeah.
she turned into like a helicopter drone, and I was even more confused by that. I was like, oh,
I was excited. I was like, oh, she could fly. I'm sending you the Amazon listing for this toy
yeah,
because you need to see
oh,
this.
interesting.
That
That
is
is
not the character I watched in the movie.
that is Starscream's body that turns into a spider. What? Okay. At least they sort of got the legs right in that it it's like a thin thing at the end, but
Yeah.
that is interesting. Okay. Well then.
Yeah, I saw this last night because after the movie, I was like, oh, I should see if they have a toy. And I saw this toy and I'm like, that's not correct. That must be a different character. But then looking more closely, nope, it has her name on the box.
That is
Oh.
her character design from the film on the box, but we don't see the rest of her
Not
details.
on the toy.
So no, so basically we just have the head that's correct, and then the spider
And
theme, I
barely.
guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It's,
Okay,
oh,
interesting.
yeah.
Yes, and then lastly, in terms of
Alpha
characters, we have
Trion.
Alpha Trion.
He's there to exposit.
He's the old expository character that gives our young, plucky adventurers that one ability that
He's
lets
the
them.
Turaga.
He is the Turaga. I was very disappointed that they killed him because
Yeah, it would be more interesting if they had kept him
so
around.
Alpha Trion in the '80s show just kind of hangs out in the backgrounds of Cybertron. It's like he doesn't interact with anyone. It's like Optimus. It's like, okay, I need something, or he dies or something, and Alphatron just shows up and it's like, oh look, a dead body. Well, I guess I'm gonna do something with you. And so he's like the old wanderer that helps people, but
Yeah.
people don't think he exists. They always think that he's dead. So he's dead.
What does he transform into, like, canonically?
Another animal dinosaur thing, which I
Okay,
was like,
that
oh,
was
okay.
what confused me.
Yeah.
Is that true in the cartoon as well?
We never see him transform in the cartoon.
Okay. Huh.
He doesn't do
Yeah.
any action in the cartoon. He's just the old guy who actually in the 80s cartoon he was the original Autobot that
Okay.
fought against the Quintessons. But whatever. He I don't know why they call him a prime when he is not a prime.
Yeah. This is, speaking of action figures, this action figure actually looks decent.
Yes. Well,
Maybe I'll have to look for it next time I'm at the store.
but yeah, he kind of looks like Ikimu somewhat
Yeah.
with his mask. Or he has the mask of the Guardians, but like the elder nihilist of Ikimu.
Yeah. Oh, that's not expensive for. Anyway.
Anyway.
Enough online shopping for today.
Yes.
Characters. I gave the characters overall a 3 out of 5.
I did as well. Yeah. All right. Moving on to visuals.
Yeah. I like the design of everything. The way they make it feel very mechanical, and yet there's still like natural elements to it. It just looks like a coherent alien world that makes sense for the Transformers to live on.
Yes, I don't know about the organic stuff on the surface, but that's just me putting other incarnations into it. But it
Okay.
is the city itself is very Transformers-y. Yeah.
Yeah. I also, I don't know, it just looks pretty. Like, even just looking at the
I
trailers and
mean,
they have the like, yeah.
that's the advent of animation, you know. All the lighting works for everything. I was like I was I don't know. I was like there were so many reflections on just the armor of them that I was like distracted by. It's like I'm not paying attention to the scene. I was like, oh wow, that like ray tracing they're doing there looks really pretty. So
Yeah.
I will say like the textures of them they feel less like metal and more like the toy plastic that you see, which
Okay.
was interesting.
Yeah. I
They're also
noticed it
very
with their
colorful as well.
faces.
Yeah.
The faces are a little bit not quite there yet.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, the mouth. I mean, anytime you give like a Transformers a mouth, it is
Yeah.
interesting, especially Optimus. I don't like Optimus
Yeah.
with a mouth. Just leave his little triangle mask on his face.
Yeah. I thought, though, like, the designs overall were very good, very legible.
Yeah.
Which I appreciate after the Bay movies. I love the Quintesson ship that's just like, it's so massive, and like that it's like organic instead of
and
mechanical.
crustacean. It's
Yeah.
pretty crustacean.
Yeah. Which
I was confused by the crabs.
Yeah. For my like sea-based alien creatures, I tend to go more for like the squid-based than the crustacean-based. But it looks really cool.
Yeah, I was a tiny bit disappointed that the Quintesson didn't rotate his face, but that's fine. That's fine.
Maybe next movie. I could see them doing this doing that in the next movie with how much this embraces the aesthetic of, I don't know, just this like very sci-fi space aesthetic.
Yeah, yeah. Instead of being in the city of Chicago or some
Yeah. Or even like Cybertron in the live action movies looks like an Earth city as built for robots. Here, this actually feels like a completely different space,
sure, yeah,
like something alien that still feels coherent. And like when you get inside buildings, and it's like, okay, yeah, this looks like a room with chairs and tables. But yeah, there
you know
is like,
something. You
what?
know, the Matrix of Leadership. The
Yeah,
um, it's we have the exact same thing with Revenge of the Fallen, where the the one who picks it up and it's unworthy, the thing turns into dust, and then the one who dies and is chosen by the primes, it's given to them. So,
oh boy.
oh boy,
Yeah, you can go back and listen to last week's episode on Revenge of the Fallen. So, what did you think of the action scenes?
they were pretty cool. Uh,
Okay.
I don't know if there's one that stood out to me the most, or really stood out in general. Um, they were action. I don't know how
Yeah,
to
I,
describe
I
it.
am a little bit I am a little bit disappointed that we didn't get, because in animation you have so much more freedom for how the camera moves, and they used it
Mm-hmm.
well in certain sequences. I was kind of wishing the action would have been just a little bit better.
Sure. I would have liked to see more of like brawling with their fists. I did like that we got Optimus's like energy axe, and so that did some cool things with that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I I wasn't fully immersed in the action as I was the themes of Megatron and
Yeah.
Optimus.
Yeah. I I think one of the most disappointing scenes for me was the race scene, cuz
Yeah.
there are so many examples of what you can do with races in animation. And
Yeah.
this didn't feel special in that way. No, they do have some really cool stuff. Like I love the trains and then also the vehicles and how the road just kind of appears in front of them. That is so cool. And it leads to some really fun visual ideas, especially in the race scene. But yeah, just kind of there isn't, I don't know, with animation you don't have to have cuts to quite the same extent. And that frees you up for like a racing scene. You could do the whole racing scene as a single take, following the characters. And I feel like that would have worked a little bit better here. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. The race when the race happened, it was like, "Oh, we're doing a race?" It's like, the race thing again. I feel like I've seen the race
Yeah.
thing happen. It's the pod racing um element they just add into the film. Doesn't really do much to the actual plot. Maybe it does a little bit. It
Yeah.
does. The ending of the race leads us to
But the pod
the
racing
stuff.
sequence is a better sequence than the race sequence here.
Yeah, legibly, yes.
Uh,
It's more
yeah.
exciting for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. That one, I guess in this one you did have an announcer announcing the plays. Anyway, we can move on from that. I
Yeah,
really
but like
like
we
that the
didn't. Yeah,
vehicles.
they announced the place, but like I didn't really feel the sense of like, this racer is going faster than that one. I never really got a
Yeah,
sense for the individual racers. They were just like random names that the announcer would say, or just a random explosion of bodies.
yeah.
But I was never like, oh no, that's Darkwing Duck coming
No, not
to do.
Ben Quadraneros.
No.
I don't know enough about that character to say anything more. I just remember the name. Gonna look.
Yes.
That's the guy with the weird face, which I think I could say that about any of the pod racers and be relatively safe in being like, oh yeah, that's the one with the weird face.
I mean, yeah, they all have the weird face.
That's how I remember this guy. He's the one with the weird face. Anyway, yeah,
Anyway,
I like that the vehicles they transform into aren't quite Earth vehicles.
yeah,
Like you get
I,
the
I,
idea of it,
yeah, I do wish that
but
they didn't
they're
have wheels.
that
'Cause it's
that's a
just that
good
one
point.
element. Yeah, I mean, the wheels look not earthly enough to be like so severe about it, but like the idea of wheels, because typically Transformers they
Yeah,
hover, they don't need wheels or treads, but whatever toy stuff they need it for the toys.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I appreciated that after all of the insanity of, oh, Earth cars are actually based on the Transformers. I'm like, okay, no,
They're
this
not.
makes more sense to me of like these Transformers are transforming into things that are recognizable but not actually the things. Yeah.
I feel like people
Yes,
always get that confused because that's never the case. They never turn
it
into
is in the
cars.
Michael Bay movies. It is in the Michael Bay movies.
Not, no,
No,
not
they
really.
specifically say that the designs of cars are based on the Transformers because of the cube.
Eh, but no, when they arrive to Earth, they're all a bunch of gray blobs. But then they find cars and turn into them. But
Okay,
sure,
but no,
yeah.
there was a line. There was a line there.
Eh,
Anyway,
anyway,
we talked about the faces. They're a bit odd.
sure, yeah, they're a bit odd. Um, I don't have a whole lot else to say about the visuals. I think they do a solid job. I do
Yeah,
like the simplicity of like G1 inspired designs, especially when it came to like the other Decepticons. But that's that's what I have to say about that. Yes.
yeah. I thought the visuals were very good overall. I gave them a 4.5 out of 5.
I
Again, a
gave
lot
it
of
a
the faces aren't quite there.
yeah, I gave it a generous 5.
Yeah,
Yes.
on to performances.
Yeah.
I want to hear your
Um
thoughts on this because you have more.
so obviously this film is marketed with a bunch of celebrities playing the characters, and there's this whole thing about celebrity casting and how like they can't quite voice act in the same way, which is partially true. Um, you can do. It's not a thing about them not being professional enough. It's that for most of the theatrically released Hollywood made animated kids films, they're choosing big names to sell the films.
Yeah,
Whereas if you were to go to like a cartoon, and you'd be surprised how many celebrities are in cartoons. However, the casting process is so much different. In animated series, I'm going specifically to talk about the Batman the Animated Series because I was watching some behind the scenes about the casting process for that series by the casting director of Andrea Romano, and how she described it. And this is back in the 90s, so things would change, have changed since then. Um, they don't cast people to do the impression. They're not looking for people to do an impression or a voice. They're looking for people who have a distinct sounding presence, vocal or vocal inflection that match the characters really well. That's why you have like Kevin Conroy as Batman and Bruce Wayne. He has such a unique voice that it fits the character really well. That's why you have all the other actors in this rogues gallery that you wouldn't think of, like Paul Williams, a musician, is the voice of the Penguin in that show. But because of his unique vocal inflections, he sounds like that posh Penguin that they were going for, or even with the manic energy of like John Glover for the Riddler, sells like his quizzical nature. And of course, you also just have like the people who do cartoons for a living, like Rob Paulson or Maurice LaMarche, who do cartoons for a living. But when looking for these films here they go with Chris Hemsworth, not because they heard his voice and they're like, oh, okay, he has the vocal quality that could sound like he could be that Optimus Prime character or general. No, they go with him because one, oh, he has a deep sounding voice, plus he's well known. They go with Scarlett Johansson because oh, she is
A
female
woman.
and she's a woman and she plays Black Widow and is tough. They go with Keegan Michael Key because he's a comedian character who can do things, but um, they're not chosen specifically because they have a voice in mind. They're chosen specifically because oh, they're a name and they can somewhat loosely get into that range.
Yeah.
Um, but there's also the process of how long they take in the recording booth, because in these films I can guarantee you, because they're being paid so much money, they're only there for like a couple hours at a time, whereas if you do like a cartoon, they're there for a long time to get it right and get it done well. So
Yeah. I don't think anyone does a bad job here. Um,
no,
I think,
everyone does a good job. I'm just going through their voices and
yeah,
being like, I don't know if I would have casted them, because
yeah,
the entire film, all I hear is Chris Hemsworth. I'm not
yes.
hearing Optimus Prime or Orion Pax.
I think
I do like
near
his
the
choice,
end,
like near the end where he's trying to do the Peter Cullen impression. It's like, okay, now you're trying to do the character, but before he's just like reading the lines as Chris Hemsworth.
yeah,
Um, so
I think
yeah,
for the most part, with with a few certain characters, like side characters, but like if they were casting for this movie and the characters were being played in live action, this is who I would expect them to cast,
right,
as opposed to these people being the best fit for the voices. I think some of the supporting roles are different, but like Chris Hemsworth would make sense as this character in live action. Brian Tyree Henry would make sense as this character in live action. Scarlett Johansson would make sense as this character in live action. I don't
right.
think any of them are doing bad jobs, but yeah, as you were saying, they don't quite fit. I think Keegan Michael Key, I'm always impressed with his voice acting work because I never go, oh, that's Keegan Michael Key. Like I don't recognize him immediately, and part of that is I'm not as familiar with him as like with Chris Hemsworth or Scarlett Johansson, where I'm
Sure,
immediately
yeah,
like, okay, that's Chris Hemsworth and Scarlett Johansson. But I think he is one of those celebrities who is actually good at voice acting. It's just the roles they give him are not necessarily the most, like when he's Toad in the Super Mario Bros movie, like that is casting that doesn't make sense to me from a live action perspective, but actually somehow works in the movie. And same here with him as B. Like he doesn't have that physicality, but he is playing the role correctly for how it is written.
true, yeah. For how it's written,
I don't,
yes.
yeah.
It
don't.
wouldn't
I
be my
agree with you
choice.
that this does not feel like Bumblebee the character, but that is like on a screenplay level, he is playing the character the way that the character acts within this movie.
Sure.
Steve
Yeah.
Buscemi as Starscream. He has a few scenes.
Yeah.
Again,
Steve Buscemi, like that's one that makes sense to me 20 years ago. But
yeah,
Steve Buscemi, he's a lot older now, and I can hear that in his voice. And
yeah,
um, I wish they went with someone else. Like I love the casting idea. I think Steve Buscemi would be a perfect Starscream if we think about it in live action. It's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But I'm hearing his voice. I'm like, he's too old. But I love the idea. It
yeah.
just,
Okay, you know who's really actually like great as a vocal talent? Lawrence Fishburne.
mm,
In this
he
movie, he isn't quite his role doesn't give him much to do. But when he shows up in other stuff, he delivers.
See, the most I've heard of Lawrence Fishburne in animation is this exact same role and this exact
Okay.
same voice, where he's the expository guy. So,
Yeah.
plus, like, they pay him so much, and he's a little bit disrespectful to the voice actors, but that could have been a
Okay.
misunderstanding. But that's years ago. That's whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That's
sure,
unfortunate because he's in Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, the animated Disney Marvel show, and he is really good in that. He's
okay.
also like one of the producers behind the show, which
Well,
is cool.
again, voice directing for film is different from a cartoon, so
Yeah. And
there's
here
that.
here it's like he is delivering the role as it is written, and it's not a
Correct.
particularly interestingly written role. I like his voice. He has a very good narrator voice, which is what this role needs.
Yes.
And also,
I'll tell
like
you
speaking
later.
of live action casting, like John Hamm as Sentinel Prime, again, he is perfect for that role if this were a live action movie and the character was live action. But he isn't bringing anything special to the role as a voice actor.
Yeah, he doesn't quite have the very distinct presence as like you could just replace him with like any voice, not any, but you could replace him with like a cheaper voice actor and they would like
Yeah.
get the same results essentially.
Or you could potentially even like a little bit more characterization. Again, there isn't much in the script for this character, but
Right.
yeah, none of these actors are doing bad, but they're also like, yeah, it's I know it's a sore spot within the voice acting community of a lot of these movies, which once upon a time were cast with people who actually do this for a living, and then now it's pretty
And
much all
well,
celebrities,
yeah,
at
I
least in the
once did
major
for a
roles.
living. I mean, again, it depends on how they're processing the casting, the voice direction.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, yeah. Essentially, today it's mainly just for star power for
I
the name.
I wonder. I'm gonna look this up. I wonder who the casting director is here. I wonder if they do. I guess it wouldn't make sense, but it feels like on some level this is being cast as if it were live action,
Maybe
and
I
that
don't know.
isn't. I'm yeah. I'm thinking of like a movie that isn't cast like it's live action is like The Boy and the Heron, where they cast Robert Pattinson to play the Heron, and he gives a really good performance. But you can tell in that one like they aren't thinking of who is the type for this role. They're actually going based on like who can give a good performance here.
Sure.
Now
Yeah.
they cast a lot of celebrities for that one as well, but yeah.
I'm I'm curious if we do get a sequel, how we'll handle Optimus and Megatron, because like
Yeah.
he, Optimus's voice at the end, like okay, like okay, he's doing like his Peter Cullen impression, but it
Yeah.
doesn't sound like a very natural voice for him. So like, how are they going to do the
Yeah.
next film? Or is he going to revert back to his Crims Hemsworthness, or is he going to keep that straight on its voice? Same thing with Megatron.
Yeah.
His ending voice and his normal voice throughout the entire film are two very separate things, but we shall see.
Yeah. I gave the performances overall a 3.5 out of 5.
I gave it a 3.2. Ooh. All
Oh yeah,
right,
last
onto
up
the
we have
sound.
sound. I really like the score. I noticed it a lot throughout here, and there's a lot of different like cyber and techno elements that are in here, but it's also like performed by an orchestra. They're mixing the two and it blends really well.
To me, the score didn't stand out a whole lot. But
Okay.
it sounds to me that's what I was thinking about Brian Tyler's. To me, it sounds like a soundtrack you'd hear for a video game, in that
Okay.
it's there in the game itself. It's like okay, it's fine, but it doesn't. It's not able to sound unique or distinct enough because in video games you have to do your soundtracks in a way where you can loop the sound over and over again, and that's kind of what I felt like when listening to the soundtrack here. Um, but it is fine. It works for the most part for what it does. I will
Yeah.
say the orchestra bit when the betrayal happens was a bit much. With the slow motion kicked in, I was like, I don't know. You're kind of hemming it up a bit. I don't know.
uh, yeah. Yeah. I I I would have to listen to, and since we saw an early screening of this, I don't think it's out yet. It wasn't out when I looked yesterday. I'll have to listen to the soundtrack on its own and see how I feel then.
Sure,
But sitting in the theater watching the movie, there were moments where it jumped out to me. I think the
sure.
sound design in general is also just pretty good.
Yeah, it's fine for the most part. Yeah. So, I gave the sound a 3.
And I gave it a 4, which leaves my final score as an 18 out of 25, which is a 72% or a 3.6 on our 5-star scale.
And I gave it a 17.4, which is a 69.60%, or a 3.485 star rating.
Yeah.
But
I mean, yeah,
yeah,
this is the best Transformers movie by default. And that isn't necessarily saying a whole lot.
yes. Well, there you go. Anything else you want to say about this film before we sound off?
Um, yeah. I'm curious to see how this does at the box office. Because starting with The Last Night, every new Transformers movie has become the lowest grossing Transformers movie. I'm wondering if this can break that streak. I think it's looking to get like three, like what did Rise of the Beast? You can look up what it made. I'm curious to see if it will break through that, but I don't know if it will because the kids movie market is really crowded this month.
Yeah, hopefully it does.
Yeah,
I hope they get
I
enough
mean,
money so that the sequels are
yeah, I think they will make a sequel to this because they want to make more Transformers movies,
right.
and this is a relatively easy. They have a path forward here. But yeah, I don't
Nice.
know how this will. I don't know. I think here's my prediction. We'll see how this goes. I think that the Wild Robot is going to make more money than this, just based on the trailer.
Well, okay. Well, I can't confirm or deny that suspicion. I haven't seen anything for that film yet.
Okay,
Um,
they didn't play the trailer in front of this for you.
all I had was Sonic 3, so
Okay.
I don't know what to tell you. Yeah. Well, hopefully things work out in the end. But in that case, thank you everyone for listening, and make sure to follow us on social media. We're Binging Barbie Podcast on Instagram and Tumblr, Binging Barbie on Twitter and Serialized, and Binging Barbie, a Barbie movie podcast on Letterboxd. And if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to leave a 5-star review and go join our Patreon at patreon.com/Binging Barbie Podcast. We will be returning to talk about the rest of the Michael Bay Transformers films continuing next week, and we'll be talking about Dark of the Moon. And until then, knife hands! I have knife hands! Autobots, roll out!